In a short while, we'll be beginning. And in order not to repeat myself, I will introduce myself. As one of the bad things of being a master of ceremonies is that you have to talk about yourself. So I'll introduce myself when our chief guests come in, not to undermine your importance, but all of you here in the room are very important people. In a short while, we'll be joined by very, very important people. So as we wait for the triple VIPs, just a bit of housekeeping. We do have a dinner tonight, a dinner gala tonight where everybody is invited. So we request that if you have not yet confirmed that you'll be attending it at the reception, please do that. We have washrooms on this level. As soon as you get out on your left, or on the lower level in case near where you took your COVID tests. But we have them on those two split levels for comfort breaks. We also do have very exciting site visits on Thursdays. We'll be visiting a large-scale government informal settlement. So moving people from informal areas to more decent housing. And then we'll be visiting two other private projects. One is a public-private partnership, another one is a purely private project. And all these are in the either affordable or social housing levels. So please schedule your Thursdays and confirm with the desk on when you'd like to do that. I'd like to remind you that even though we have been able to travel, COVID is still around us and it's still within our midst, so we still have to respect our standard protocols. In particular on this trip, I believe most or all of us are already vaccinated, but even if you've got only one jab, request that keep your mask on all the time. We will allow you to remove your mask if you're speaking, but keep your mask on all the time, apart from when you're swallowing. We will also request that you can see the seating arrangement we have is not very conventional, so let's keep this same seating arrangement throughout the 2 days that we shall be here. Still on COVID protocols, if you have something to say, you raise your hand, a hand sanitizer and a microphone will be brought to you. Kindly sanitize before you hold the microphone. So it's, we've gotten ourselves accustomed to new normal, and I think the Oxford Dictionary will soon have that coined phrase in one of the pages there about the new normal. So we also do have a few people amongst us from different parts of Africa, so it's a fantastic networking event. I'll request that do not make acquaintances with a person who comes from your village. Make sure you leave this place with a new friend. A new friend. We all have a lot in common, but predominantly around the housing and real estate space, so we can benefit from one another quite a bit during the different networking breaks, the lunch breaks, and as we make our way around the event over the next 2 days. Whereas day one is predominantly focused on Rwanda, it's a Rwanda focus, and especially around our 2050 agenda. It will be very important that the interventions that come through as the days progress, exchanges that we are sharing amongst our different countries, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Tanzania, and what have you. So we will get to share that. You will note from you must have received emails about the details of the events, that those emails have bios and speakers briefs. We have a wide range of people with depth of knowledge and experience in the housing space. So again, back to what I was talking about, networking. Will encourage you so much to take advantage of whoever is with us here, that we can be able to address and share experiences and exchanges over the next 2 to 3 days. We do have exhibition stands outside from different players, from the financiers, from the developers, from property practitioners. So Rwanda is a very efficient country that before this conference ends, you can actually buy a property and walk away with a title before you go back home. So take advantage of that you can actually own a property, and it can even be rented to you in case you're looking for that rental income. So there's a lot of exchanges out there on the exhibition booths around the different products and services in the housing space that are available in Rwanda. So it would be very nice for you to visit them during the breaks. As we wait for our dignitaries to come in, I would also like to remind you that Kigali is a very, very safe and entertaining city. Before this conference was announced, the government of Rwanda decided to lift the curfew and extend it to midnight so that you guys can enjoy yourselves. So make sure you see the rest of Kigali. There's lots to do during the day and during the night, and we will want you to be in your beds by midnight so that you don't miss the morning sessions that would be having. So want to encourage you guys so much to look at other parts. I know some of you are already planning to visit historical sites, especially around the Genocide Memorial and the others that we may have. So that information will also be readily available at the hotel reception, depending on where you'd like to go. Our theme is around mobilizing funds for shelter and housing. As you can see on your screens, it's about a new frontier in affordable housing in Africa. So the conversation naturally is going to be around doing things a little bit differently and how we can take advantage of everyone who is here in the room from different backgrounds to be able to do things a little bit differently. And in terms, especially as it rightfully says, it's a new frontier. We're talking about mobilizing funds for that space and seeing how else we can do things a little differently. So I will encourage you guys so much to think a little bit out of the box as you share your experiences. One of the beauties about housing, when you look around the room and you ask yourself, but how come there are about only 100 or so people and not many more? And to actually realize that even when you're building one house, you're actually settling a whole family. So the several of you who are here can actually change people's lifestyles in eternity. So thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Charles Haber. I run a property practice called Century Real Estate. I've been in the housing space for almost 20 years now. It may not reflect on my face or look, but I never judge a book by the cover. I am humbled to be your master of ceremonies today for the 37th edition of the Africa Union Housing Finance Conference. And for those of you who may not know, this is actually the second time that Rwanda is hosting this conference, with the first time having been in 2005. So thank you so much, everybody, for making it. Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Andrew Chimphondah, MD Shelter Afrique, thank you so much for joining us. We do have in our midst the evergreen Keisha Rust. Thank you so much as well for gracing this. Now, mine is very, very simple. It's to set the tone for the event. And first of all, I want to thank all of you for having done whatever you could to make sure you're here in person. We've lost so many loved ones. COVID has hit us really hard. And on that particular note, I'd like to kindly request that we all rise and remember those who are no longer amongst us as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. May their souls rest in peace. Thank you. Please be seated. To set this rolling, I wanted to give a few facts and statistics. African cities have become home to more than 40,000 people per day. And these are people who are living in informal areas, going to urban areas. And most of these 40,000 people struggle with decent shelter. The World Bank estimates that by 2030, 3 billion people, and that's about 40% of the world's population, will need new housing. Today's day one of our conference is Rwanda focused, and it's really around the Vision 2050. In Rwanda alone, it is estimated that in Rwanda, in Kigali alone, it is estimated that we need about 300,000 units per year. And that's not to close the gap and make sure everybody is housed. It's just to narrow the gap. It is estimated, and we'll get to hear more about this, that we need 1 million units by 2050. I did not go to school to study mathematics, but Android tells me that's about 33,000 units a year. I think that's a daunting task. Not in Rwanda, but in the entire sub-Saharan Africa, only 5% have access to mortgages. Extremely concerning. This can help that affordable land, affordable housing continue to be a myth amongst our midst. And it's on that particular note that I would like to call upon Mr. Andrew Chimphondah, who is not only the chairperson of the African Union for Housing Finance, but is also the CEO of Shelter Afrique, to kindly come and give us his welcome remarks. Andrew, karibu.
Honorable Minister for Infrastructure in Rwanda, Ambassador Clever Gatete, Honorable Mayor of the City of Kigali, Mr. Prudence Rubingisa, the Deputy Director General and Fund Management of the RSSB, Mr. Philippe Watrin, the Board of the AUHF Africa Union for Housing Finance. I would like the board to rise as they'll be engaging with you throughout this week. Can the board please rise? We have Mildred Mutesa. If you can rise, would you be able to introduce yourselves, perhaps? Do you have a roving mic? Maybe we'll start with yourself, Mildred, quickly. Just introduce yourself. Charles, do you have a, okay, we have, maybe start with David then, out of logistics, yeah? This is the board of the Africa Union for Housing Finance. It's important that you know them so that should you want to benefit, be it to be a member, understand the value you can get from AUHF, these are the people that will be interacting with you throughout this week. David?
Good morning, everybody. I'm David Akinin. I'm coming from Namibia, and I'm also the CEO of Atenu Developments.
Thank you, David. And maybe just remove your mask. It's hard to know who you look like with just your eyebrows. I mean, just this part. I mean, you have to have a special skill. So, Mildred, you're very beautiful. Remove your mask, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mildred Nyamiju Mutesa. I'm Managing Director of Zambia National Building Society, but I also chair the Lobbying and Advocacy Committee of the African Union. Thank you.
Fantastic, Mildred. Thank you. my Oga Alaji.
Good morning, all. My name is KEYNOTE Ogundimu. I'm the Managing Director of Nigeria Mortgage Refinance Company. I'm also the Treasurer of the association of this union. Thank you.
Thank you, KEYNOTE. Our past chair, Oscar.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Oscar Mgaya. I'm with Tanzania Mortgage Refinance Company, and I'm also a board member. Thank you.
Asante sana, Oscar. We have my brother from another mother from South Africa, Mfundo.
Peter. My name is Mfundo Mabaso. I'm the head of affordable housing in FNB South Africa. I'm also the secretary of the board, and it's good to be in Rwanda. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's just give them a round of applause. David wants to say something that's unscripted. Please, yeah. David.
Well, not unscripted. I think I failed to mention I chair the Member Services Committee, and I want to welcome all of those who are here present in this conference who are not yet members of the AUHF. Come find me, let's discuss the value that you can get from being a member of the African Union for Housing Finance. And we hope maybe even before the AGM, we can count on you to join us and be part of this amazing organization.
Thanks, David. So please see David. You get your 50% discount for this first year. He'll give it to you during this week, etc. Then we can work out the payment plans. It's not much. And then, of course, the Advocacy and Lobbying Committee is headed by yours truly, Mildred. Members of the African Union for Housing Finance, we welcome you. You've come from all over the world in terms of all parts of Africa and outside. The fellow directors, the Secretariat, we just want to welcome you, and of course, members of the Diplomatic Corps and the press and media that are present here today. Mwaramutse, Pavavimbe, Pavadimwe na Bishiki watu. Mwaramutse. Okay, my board members are just looking at me. No, this is not Swahili, guys. This is Kinyarwanda. Okay, but anyway, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor, it is my privilege to welcome you all to the 37th conference and annual general meeting, which we'll have courteous on Thursday, of the African Union for Housing Finance. We are very grateful to be hosted by the government of Rwanda, and we thank the Honorable Minister, Ambassador Clever Gatete, for making it possible and for accommodating us. It is something we can never take for granted. In my other life, of course, some you may know, is that I am the Chief Executive of Shelter Afrique. I am the Chairman of the African Union for Housing Finance, but I know how much that we need to be advocates of affordable housing. Affordable housing is a misnomer. We look at it as a house that a person can afford. But what we drive at, specifically as the AUHF, is not about how much you can afford. It's about reaching the bottom of the pyramid. It's about advocating for low-cost, quality housing throughout the whole of Africa. Why? Because we believe that the biggest challenge in Africa, as you know, is affordability. I was listening to our MC and director for the program today, Charles, my friend Charles. He was talking a lot of statistics, but it is daunting to note that throughout the whole African continent, the shortage of housing is growing every day, because the rate at which we're having urbanization come into the city centers is much higher than the rate at which we are producing quality, low-cost housing. Developers chasing development profit would rather have a house which gives them more profit, but we are advocating. You still make the same profit, but you deliver volumes. So, what is the shortage of housing in Africa? We estimate it to be 56 million units and growing. What does that mean in quantitative terms? At an average of $25,000 a house, you need $3 trillion. We believe no government can put aside all of that money. That's why we try to drive public-private partnerships, and that is why whatever we do, we have to do it in concert with governments that are committed, governments that are disciplined, governments that want to see a change in the livelihoods of their populations and their people. As part of the theme, we will be exploring New frontiers for affordable housing. We believe the timing for this is especially auspicious owing to two factors. Across the world, from us in Glasgow, Scotland, I must say Scotland is an area that's funny enough close to my heart because I went to a Scottish school. Imagine in Zimbabwe, even played the bagpipes and weared kilts. If you know what kilts are, those are skirts. But nonetheless, that's not what we're here for today. Today, we want to talk about the Conference of Parties, COP26, to address the effects of global warming on our continent, which many believe will be irreversible if we do not take action. I was fortunate to be at the World Cities Conference, which was held in Luxor, in a place in Egypt, just from a flight. It's an hour away from Cairo. Anyone's been to Luxor here? I don't see any hands, so at least when I talk to you, I can talk with authority. Anyway, one of the things that came out from the invitation from UN Habitat, the executive director, was that 1.6 billion people will be affected by changes in climate. We have to find a way of incorporating that change in all the building and designs that we do. In Arab, they say we must strive for higher karima. That is a life with purpose, where we include everybody because everybody is special. Secondly, the death toll of the coronavirus pandemic. I've put it as at yesterday, 5 million souls we've lost today, and I thank you all for taking the time just to consider our friends, our relatives, our brothers and sisters that we've lost through this devastating pandemic. I ask you today not to stand, but just to consider them in your hearts and in your prayers. What is clear is that the world is reckoning with itself, and I believe housing is just as central as anything else. From the research conducted on this, if the built environment, construction, engineering, and urban planning, cement production, took on a much more sustainable approach in its power consumption, the demand for fossil fuels would be lower, not to mention the deforestation that is associated with construction. The built environment's role in climate change is both a propagator and a possible solution to arrest the arrest of the climate change if we adapt to new technologies. That is why we must explore and advocate vigorously new frontiers for affordable housing. Additionally, the ongoing pandemic locates affordable and decent housing at the center of this crisis. The pandemic has thrown into sharp relief the need for urban planning and affordable housing communities where sanitation is prioritized. It is incumbent upon all of us to be fierce advocates for affordable housing and insist on the relationship between affordable housing and the built environment. For some of you who've been part of the struggle, I'm talking about the struggle for the liberation of Africa or African countries. People would sacrifice their lives for freedom. What do we need to do with the education that's been gifted to us? We need to have that heartfelt conviction to make sure that we make a difference by making sure that all our brothers and sisters have access to decent and affordable homes. That's why when we say we want to be advocates, you need to play your part, I need to play a part, and as a unified force, we will see change in the African continent. Of course, we should insist on advocating green financing and technologies, insisting on slum upgrading. I had a chat before we came with the Honorable Minister, Ambassador Gatete, on the wonderful things that they are doing to upgrade slums. He will talk to that. And then, of course, address the relationship between housing and disease prevention. How do you social distance in a house where you live and you are 10 of you and someone from the World Health Organization is saying one of the prescripts to reduce the spread of the pandemic is to social distance? Of course, it is impossible. However, what is possible is changing the designs going into the future to make such things possible. Allow me, of course, to slip into my role as the CEO of Shelter Afrique, just because I have to pay for my ticket here. I I can tell you that as matters that are at the forefront of Shelter Afrique, what we are advocating, we are having our annual general meeting. This time it will take place in Zimbabwe in July, in Victoria Falls. And one of our themes for the annual general meeting is climate change and the relationship with the built environment. We expect to make important announcements on projects financed by green financing. Secondly, this year, you may or may not know that we had our 40th anniversary, our 40th birthday as Shelter Afrique as an organization in a beautiful city called Yaoundé in Cameroon. What was unique is we had 44 housing ministers, 44 finance ministers come together in a round table to discuss what can be done to expedite the delivery of low-cost affordable housing in Africa. I'm pleased to note that we actually came up with the Yaoundé Declaration. I believe it's also on the website of AUHF. I can't see Tandy. Kesha, is it on the website? The Yaoundé Declaration. Okay, she's shaking her head, but not convincingly. Okay. It is on the website, so you can also read up on that. But this declaration is the first time in our organization's history that we have recommended a policy framework for all member countries to guide their actions on affordable housing. We are advocating for the industrialization of housing, manufacturing housing, and then you just assemble. Brick and mortar is a thing of the past, as you know. It was the ideal way to commemorate our 40th anniversary and recommit ourselves to the affordable housing and our role of advocacy and policy advisory. There are obvious synergies between the Yaoundé Declaration and, of course, the Cape Town Declaration that the AUHF members passed in 2019, and I would like to encourage us to explore them. I hope through this session of this week that we will come up with something unique, the Kigali Declaration of the AUHF, so that we can measure how effective we are in terms of the delivery of what we commit or what we've committed. It is exactly 1 year from the day since the last time I addressed you at the conference of the African Union for Housing Finance. This 37th event in the history of AUHF, I would like to argue that you'd be hard-pressed to find another year as universally challenging as the past one. In our countries, in our cities, in our businesses, in our homes, in our families, we have faced challenges beyond expectation. I want to maybe just cut the session short now, but just to talk a bit about what is it that you will have to expect from the conference today. This year's conference is addressing the theme of renewal and new frontiers. While 20 months of staying at home have brought the quality of households' living circumstances into sharp focus, we are also having to face the fact that our economies are constrained and our capacity to deliver is diminished. Quality affordable housing becomes all the more important in post-COVID-19 world. But we have reached a new frontier. We need to do much more with much less. We need to be more frugal. Over the next 3 days, as we explore the new frontier, we will ask specific questions. One, what are the new priorities and new thresholds that frame the affordable housing opportunity in Africa? You will hear about some organizations and how they are working to mainstream green and climate resilient approaches in the delivery and maintenance of affordable housing. Two, what are the new technologies that will be brought around the table? You will hear efforts to improve construction efficiencies through prop tech innovations and how technology can also support our ability to safely and accurately underwrite the informal incomes. Three, who are the new suppliers and what are the new partnerships that are being formed? You will hear about what it takes to build a $10,000 house. I don't know if it's 4, but let me say 4. What are the new investments shaping the affordable housing sector in Africa? All of these are in the program. You will hear about the investment into urban regeneration in the city of Johannesburg. You also hear of what is interesting, a small micro city that's been built in the Gambia by one of our members from the TAF Africa global company. And then, of course, lastly, and how do we maximize these opportunities? What new information does the sector need? We will talk a bit about a lot of that. So Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, of course, we'll put the whole speech on the website. Let me speak to the vision driving the Africa Union for housing finance. Why is it that we are passionate about what we're doing? It is our collective and deep-seated intention to realize an enabled and productive housing finance sector across Africa, where governments and the private sector work together to develop and maintain efficient and effective housing markets and access to adequate and affordable housing for all. It is a human right. A big part of this involves crowding in investment capital to support innovative approaches that truly address the needs and capacities of low-income earners so that they can become productive participants in their local housing markets. I hope that this vision will be at the center of our deliberations and discussions over the next few days, and that at the end of our time together, we will all emerge with a renewed commitment to the task and with ideas and opportunities to take this energy forward in support of truly affordable, low-cost, and plentiful housing across our countries and in our cities. I want to thank you again for your participation. Murakoze, Imana, Ibahe, Umugisha. Asante sana. Thank you.